All right, so hello and welcome to the RPG Academy podcast. My name is Michael, and we're here tonight for Detention Live. Joining me as usual is my co-host Chris. Chris, say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone.
And then tonight we have a very special guest co-host. This is David. David has been a very long-time friend and patron and supporter and all-around nice guy when it comes to the RPG Academy. We've had the chance to game a couple times, but it's been many years, I think, since that happened. But definitely a cool guy. I like that I got to know him. I'm excited to have him on the show. So David, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone.
We got Sumkey already in the audience. So Sumkey, thanks for jumping in. I have been meaning to get back to playing Zelda for like the last 2 weeks. This is to Sumkey specifically. And there keeps being something in the way. One day I got to start to do this and then I couldn't get the streaming to work out. Like I had to reboot OBS. I'm going to get back to it. I promise. So, but David, you have talked before and you've been a listener to the show. I don't know, like we've been going like 11 years now. Have you been around like 10 of those?
I'd say 6.
Okay. It's been a while. But you've said that Detention is one of your favorite shows. Like you really enjoy the format and you're pretty excited to be here. We're excited to have you as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I store Detention episode. There's a through line. My favorite podcasts all kind of transcend their content and become about human connection and people. And this is just always such an uplifting and positive space that you create in Detention. I mean, the RPG Academy overall, but this one particularly, the last 2 years have been a lot. And so I saved Detentions and I also used to save Redemptions,
Nice.
but they're on a hiatus at the moment. So
Give us a month.
just super stoked to be part of this great space.
Again, we're absolutely happy to have you. So you may have noticed that David's accent's a little different than mine. You are from Austin, is that right?
Yeah, close. So I'm dialing in from the Great Down Under. I'm in Australia.
Australia. I knew it was close. I had a couple letters off.
So I live in a city called Brisbane. Its indigenous name is Mianjin, and it's the traditional land of the Yagara and Turrbal people. And it's just wonderful city. I'd be happy to have any of you down, any member of the Academy as a friend of mine.
Not going to lie to you. Australia scares me. There's too many things there that are trying to kill you.
Yes. I know that's sort of like the stereotypical joke thing, but it's also kind of true. Like if you watch any videos, there's things down there that are just like the spiders are like this big. And I don't care if they're nice. Anything that big with that many legs? No.
Yeah, with the cryptozoology, it's like I could just do some of our actual zoology.
Yeah.
Yes. It'd be more frightening. So again, I am fighting a cold. I've mentioned it on Twitter today, but I had to cancel this one on David once already, so I didn't want to do it again. But I'm going to try to power through. But if I start coughing, just move on without me. I'm the least important person here. But with that, we're going to jump into the show as we always do. We start with Extracurricular. And this is where we just talk about things we've been up to, things we want to share with strangers on the internet, books we've been reading, movies, TV shows, music, or just anything in your life that you feel like sharing. Chris, I'll start with you tonight, sir. What you been up to, buddy?
I've gotten into a couple shows that I really like. I'm really digging Andor. I really like, not going to go into too much, but a little bit darker, grittier story. No Force users. Don't change that mouse. I'm more important than anybody else. Keep it where it is. I've been really enjoying She-Hulk. I like the kind of break from the serious Marvel and breaking the fourth wall and a little bit lighter hearted. I really like that. And I really like the Rings of Power. I really like how they've done that. I think it's well done. Of course, I'm not a huge Tolkien expert, so there might be somebody out there screaming, well, they got this wrong and that wrong. I don't know any different. So not a big deal to me. Other than that, I started playing Hyrule Warriors, which is the prequel, I guess, to Breath of the Wild. I thought it was going to be like Breath of the Wild, but it's not. It's a little more like, I guess, Dynasty Warriors, where you just run around and mass mobs and just kill everything. So it's still fun. I get to mash buttons and, waste some time and not think about anything. Other than that, just work. Gonna go camping with some friends this weekend. Yes, in October in the Midwest. But for once, it's not going to be snowing, so it'll be fun. That's all's really new with me. I don't have too much news.
Yeah, I'll touch base on Andor as well. I'm really enjoying it, but I'm the only, this is like, I don't want to come across like as a negative, but just, I'm not sure if the reason I like it so much is that it seems so disconnected from Star Wars, because it doesn't feel like a lot of like what I think Star Wars feels like, because it's missing some of those iconic things like Jedi and lightsabers and stuff. And I don't think Star Wars needs it, but this feels weird because it doesn't have it, but it's also really good. So it's sort of like my brain is like fighting with itself going, well, is the reason you like it because you don't have it? Or is it the reason that it's just really good and it chooses not to have it, and it could have chose to have it and it still would have been good, that type of thing. But yeah, I watched the 4th episode today. So again, no spoiler, or 5th actually, I think. And I'm absolutely in all the way. Like, I'm really, really enjoying it. So I highly recommend that as well.
They do have some of the typical stereotypic things in there. You got your cutesy droid. They didn't leave one of those out.
That's true.
The Empire is still shown as, evil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they've thrown in evil corporations now. So it's kind of got some of the stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's not wholly absent, but yeah. All right, David, I'll go to you next. What have you been up to, buddy?
I've changed job recently, gone back out working for myself, which is really good. Makes times like this available to me during the day. So I've got a bit more control of my own time. We have been, I've got 2 kids. And my partner and I, we've been inhaling Owl House. If you've not watched Owl House on Disney Plus, it's like rich fantasy, inclusive. Every frame, it's one of those ones where every frame has something to look at if you wanted to, but you just at some point have to just let it wash over you. Fish out of water story. Human girl goes into fantasy realm, and it pokes very conscious fun at some of the really big tropes, and yeah, we're just loving it.
Nice.
Caleb and Grant on Discord have been talking about that one a lot. I know Caleb really loves that. I think Grant does as well, and they're just, excuse me, anytime there's a new episode, they're both chatting about it. So it's on my list. I just haven't got to it yet.
And it's I'll underline this with the things I've been doing is all about lots of story. Life is about stories and stuff. I've got Andor queued up, ready for as soon as I got time to watch it. She-Hulk's on our list. I think one of the things that got me excited recently is in the last 2.5 years, I've been playing through I Spy a Peak with my twins. They're 10 turning 11. We're just about to finish that. And the other night when I was cooking dinner, I heard the unmistakable click-clack of dice on a table, and went round into the living room and found that my son had set up the Dungeon Master screen that he got for Christmas, and he and his sister had just started playing D&D with each other. And it was one of those things that as a gamer parent, I thought I'd like, I can't wait to see the intergenerational pass through. And you always imagine, well, I'll be there that moment that it happens. I was like, dang it, I was cooking pasta and I just, you did it without me. You're independent and doing it your own way, which is just wonderful.
Yeah.
And where our bedtime book at the moment, we read every night, is we're reading Narnia. And that's really fascinating to reread with 10-year-old Australian kids. And when someone says, by Jove, and they go, what even is that? What does that mean? And yeah, it's been really good. So amazing times to be watching television, and we've just finished school holidays here. So we went to Tasmania, and if you like poetic places, there's a place called the Edge of the World in Tasmania, which is where the ocean, like 6-story high oceanic waves slam into the cliffs of Tasmania, carrying entire trees that fell off the coast in South America or South Africa. and there's a plaque there that says, oops, sorry, bang the microphone, says throw a pebble in the stone, throw a stone into the ocean. You've thrown a stone off the edge of the world and know that it'll be here for a long, long time. So my family and I stood on the edge of the world and threw a stone into the ocean together. It was just wonderful. Wilderness of Australia is great. Chris, you should come down and camp.
Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah.
I got to go take the wife to Spain first. Then I can go somewhere else. We were supposed to go for our 20th anniversary, which was this year, and that's what still wasn't open for us to go. So shooting for the 25th or maybe 22nd anniversary. We don't know. We'll figure it out.
It's on the list, right?
Awesome.
It'll be interesting because she'll get to talk to everybody, and I'll just get to stand there like, the foolish American tourist that doesn't understand anything people are saying. And then probably realize halfway through their conversation, they're speaking English, and I just wasn't paying attention.
Just wasn't paying attention, yeah.
Gone from being monolingual to just being a disinterested spouse. Going, oh, wait, sorry. Yep, sorry about that.
So I will say, though, that we are getting closer and closer to the universal translator. Like, there are apps on the iPhones now that are almost real time. Like, you can just, hold it up and they can talk, and it will then tell you what they said. And then, I have my Bluetooth hearing aid, so it all goes through there. So I could literally have you talk. It would translate, and I would hear it in English in my head. And I'm sure, but 2 years now, there'll be an iPhone 17 by then, right? So who knows what they'll have.
I use the Google Translator at work. I do medical supplies, so a lot of times people come in and they don't speak English, and I'll go, hold on, and then I'll talk, and it'll translate for me, and then they talk, and it translates back. So that's been really helpful. Otherwise, it's usually me drawing pictures, which is a lot of stick figures and arrows, and at the end of it, I go, makes sense, and they kind of go, eh.
Does it look like a penis, though? Or if you're drawing a dungeon map, it always looks like a penis.
Kind of.
Or I'm imagining Chris putting this is close range, this is medium range.
These are our bands. So Sumkey says that they've been watching an Australian-based show called Darby and Joan, which is a mystery show. I don't know if you are familiar with that one, David.
I am not.
You're not a real Australian. So I've already touched on it. I really liked Andor. I thought the first 3 episodes were tight. And I've kind of read that basically the way the show is going to work, it's 9 episodes. Each 3 is sort of like its own arc. So the first 3 kind of make, not like a movie, but it's like a story it leads into the next, but it also sort of is self-contained in some ways. And I thought the first 3 were amazing. The 4th one started over, and the 5th episode was kind of the build-up, but it definitely leaves you on a place where I'm now excitedly waiting until next week so I can finish up, see how things go. So I'm absolutely loving Andor.
I like that Star Wars is pushing out into some new spaces. I like seeing new places. I, for one, and I don't mean to make people cross, but I loved The Mandalorian a lot more before Boba Fett arrived. I went, this is new and different, and it's its own story. And it was like, sure, give Boba a cameo, but I'm invested in Din Djarin and Grogu. Just give me that.
Yep.
So I think it's cool that I, as a non-Force user myself in real life, if there's a story that feels more like me, it's good on them for giving that a go.
Yeah.
And that we feel comfortable now, I think, as consumers of media, that they've gone, look, we've done entire Clone Wars and set stuff. You all know how Darth dies. You know how Obi-Wan dies. We know where Andor's story ends up, but that doesn't mean that the beginning isn't compelling.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm in the same boat you are with The Mandalorian. I've gone on record more than once saying Boba Fett was fan service, wasn't done well, should have left him in the pit, or hired me to write the story, because I would have done way better. He would have had that rocket pack and shooting a lot of stuff, and
there'd been a lot more violence.
Yeah.
So definitely loving She-Hulk as well. I know I've heard some grumblings online about it. I'm loving it. I like that it's irreverent. I like that it doesn't really connect to anything. It feels like a TV show. It doesn't feel like a movie that's been cut into pieces and parts. And, it's kind of like disposable, but it's also fun, and it's into the stuff that I'm into. And I like seeing these C and D list characters that get little cameos. And I'm really enjoying it. I'm very much looking forward to the next episode. Yes, I'm looking forward to having Daredevil finally show up, but that's also because I really like that Daredevil show on Netflix. It was by far the best of all of the Netflix shows, and Charlie Cox absolutely nails that character. So I'm excited to see him because of that. But that doesn't lessen my enjoyment of She-Hulk that he hasn't been there yet. Like anyone who's watching She-Hulk just to see Daredevil, I don't think you're in the right headspace. That's why you're not enjoying it. It's not that he's not there. It's just you're not in the right mindset for what that show's doing. But I think what it is actually doing is doing really, really well. And I'm excited to see how things progress.
I think what they are doing well with She-Hulk, I'm invested in both She-Hulk and Jen. I know they're the same person, but they're two different personalities.
Right.
I'm invested heavy into both, but I'm also invested in like her assistant / best friend and other characters around her. It's not solely her, that you would get invested in like some of the other ones. So I think it's well done. I think the writing is well done. I think the way that the actress performs it is really well done. I'm enjoying it. I love how they're having, Blonsky / the Abomination, just this, how they've changed his character. And I'm just waiting for the other shoe to fall on that one, but we'll see.
We'll see. I've been reading audiobook style the new Stephen King book Fairy Tale that just came out a few weeks ago. I'm pretty much a big Stephen King fan. I read most of what he's written. One of my favorite podcasts is the Stephen King focused podcast. It's really good. It's called Fairy Tale. It's it's not D&D, but there's definitely some elements of again, kind of like you were saying about Owl House. It's a human boy that gets him into a fantasy land, but it's also through the lens of Stephen King. So some of the things that you expect, you kind of get subverted in a really good way and very compelling. So I think it's like a 25-hour audiobook. I got like 4 hours left. So I'm really far into it. I'm really enjoying it. Can't wait to finish it.
Could you imagine what he would be like as a GM?
I would love it. I'd find out. I'd like to find out someday because he makes mundane things so interesting that I think he would be able to get really invested in that world. Because I think that's what he does so well is he grounds his characters in mundanity so that when the supernatural happens, it feels terrible. Like, cause you know everything about these people and who they are and the car they drive and the sodas they prefer and, the problems they're having with their spouses. Then all of a sudden a werewolf eats one of them. You feel that loss because they're a real person to you. They're not just a character on a page.
Yep. I feel like I would just kind of stare at him as he's describing things, just be like,
well, the problem is he has his voice, and again, it's hard for me to talk, especially today more than ever, but he's just got that Maine accent. And I think it would just sometimes you get lost in it. Like, say that again. Yeah. And then AcadeCon's taking up majority of my time, every waking moment that I'm not doing something else. I'm dealing with the AcadeCon stuff. It's fun. I'm great. I love it, but it's a lot. We're getting very close. Almost everything is off my bucket list other than to finish packing and get there with a few little things or just things that are in progress. I'm very excited about that. And then I will say, I have a family vacation at the end of the month. We're going back to Disney World. It's the one in Florida. I think that's Disney World. And we're going to hit Star Wars Land and the Avengers Campus. Those are like our two big things that we're going for. And I'm very excited about that. So hopefully I'll be over the cold, have my COVID booster. Everything will be great because I leave that vacation a day early, leaving my family there to come back a day early to pack up to head to AcadeCon. So
nice. You'll be busy.
Very, very. But it compounds like all the stuff I have to get done. I have 1 week less than I normally would because once I leave for vacation, I'm not going to be able to manage anything. So if anything pops up, I'll deal with it when I get back. When I get back, it's time to leave. So we shall see.
All right. As an Australian, I kind of know I've been to Florida, but like is Disney World okay with the big storm that hit?
So they actually did shut the park down for a couple of days, which is extremely rare for that park to ever get shut down. But I don't think there was actually any damage. I think it was more like they couldn't ask their employees to come to work in the middle of it and that kind of thing. So I believe the park is fine. At least we haven't heard anything. Nothing about our reservations have gotten changed.
It's survived several in the past. I'm sure it'll keep going.
All
if
right.
not, they might have the money to rebuild.
They could rebuild it, make it better, faster, and stronger. The
It
$6
might-
billion amusement park.
That would just be one right there, probably by now.
Pretty much. Okay, so with that, we're going to move into our first improv game, and this is 10 Things. And this is a show where we'll take turns prompting one another to try to create a list of 10 things that fit the prompt. The idea behind the game is immediacy is more important than accuracy, so coming up with a list quickly is better in terms of the game than coming up with a list that actually makes a heck of a lot of sense. David, you are the guest tonight, so would you like to go first in terms of giving one of us a prompt or receiving a prompt?
I would like to tear the Band-Aid off and get prompted.
All right, Chris, you got something or you want me to do it?
Flip a coin. You can go. I can go. I can come up with something.
All right, I'll go. I don't know why I paused myself as I said that. I'll go. Okay, David, your 10 things. Okay. All right, so talked a little bit about Australia, talked about a little bit about TV shows. So give me 10 of your favorite childhood TV shows that you watched growing up.
Wow. Doctor Who.
One.
The Goodies.
2.
David Attenborough's Life on Earth. Blake
3.
7.
4.
Battlestar Galactica.
5.
The Star Wars movies when we would get them a year after they were released.
6.
Super Friends.
7.
Transformers.
Mm-hmm. Yes. 8.
We got it as Robotech, but Macross.
8, 9. That's what it's called here too.
And Astro Boy.
10. Hey, these are 10 things.
Excellent.
That is harder than you think it would
You
be.
did very well. I thought you did that really well. All right, so to keep the list going, you will then prompt Chris.
Okay, Chris.
Yes.
You are planning a camping trip to Australia.
Okay.
What are 10 things you've heard you need to be careful about in Australia or you think could kill you in Australia?
Okay.
Everything.
Snakes, for sure. Giant crocodiles. Sharks. Really big waves when I try to surf, even though I don't know how to surf. Giant spiders. Kangaroos, because I don't want to box one. Dingoes. I think that's a thing. Koala bears. I hear they're vicious.
They'll give you syphilis.
Other tourists. Trying to drink with a local.
That's 10.
That's 10.
Isn't
Yay.
Yay! I may have got my counts up there.
So 9 out of them are true.
Koala bears aren't
the one-
vicious.
Well, we have the fictional drop bear, which is the carnivorous subspecies of koala that kill you by they have an armored butt and they drop out of the tree and crush you and then eat you. And we tell tourists about drop bears.
Nice. All right, Michael, you ready?
I'm sure.
All right. 10 things you want to see at Disney World Land,
All right.
whatever it's called.
The Rise of the Resistance.
1.
The Build a Star Wars lightsaber thing.
2.
The Build the Droid thing.
3.
Some Marvel characters.
4.
The movie Black Panther 2 early, even though I know that's not going to happen.
5. Never know.
Spaceships.
6.
Nice weather.
7.
Short lines at the airport.
8.
A giant ass cookie.
9.
And my family.
10.
Yay!
Yay!
That was a fact
Beautiful.
list of 10 things.
10 things.
All right. So we're going to move into used books. This is kind of the meat and potatoes of the show generally. And we're going to talk about a campaign that one of us have either played or ran. And we're just going to mine it for lessons learned, things that went well that maybe we've carried into future games, maybe something we tried and it just didn't work and we have learned from it and we either avoid it or we've done it differently in the future. David, you are the guest tonight. Do you have a campaign you'd like to talk about, sir?
Yeah, I do. I've been really interested to hear that you, Michael, have got the OG group together again. And that's an experience I've had. That's how I got back into the hobby. when the 5e books were first released that Christmas, my wife gave me the DMG, the Player's Handbook, and the Monster Manual for Christmas and said, I know you loved this when we were younger. The kids are old enough now that we can start having our hobbies again. Here are the books. Like,
That's an awesome present.
Yeah.
and it was the books, and it was also like not permission. That's not the way our relationship works. But going, we've got space for hobbies now. The kids are out of. They're not two, where
Right.
it's 24/7 all the time. Not the parenting ever isn't, but you know.
Right.
And she said, I've made arrangements to book the function room at one of the local pubs here, and thought you might want to get the old crew together, because we used to game together in our Catholic school and all the way through what I'd call uni, what you'd call college. So there was like about 13 people that were in that core group, but in 2 different games. Got in touch with all the school boys. I went to an all boys school, and then a couple of extras, and got 8 people together at the pub. We were in our early 40s all of a sudden, and played a one shot. I had no expectations that, like, I didn't know, like when we popped the lid on that box of that experience, I went, I don't know what this is going to be. And I'd told myself, if 40 minutes in, this sucks, no one's having fun, we're at a pub, we'll have a different kind of fun. But they all loved it and didn't want to stop. They'd started at level 3, so it wouldn't be boring. I had a couple of new players who'd always wanted to be in the group but never were. So for all of them, I'll get my glass ready. I did a session 0.
Oh, nice.
And showed them how to play very briefly. And we got together, and that game's now been running for 6.5 years.
Wow.
And it's now 3 campaigns in. And I think the reason I wanted to bring it up was, and talk about it, is listening to you, Michael, and also like being a Redemption fan, listening to what a long-term group sounds like. And one of my favorite quotes is, you can make new friends, but you can't make old ones. Is there's this weird thing of, we'd kind of been in each other's lives since school. Some of us a lot, some of us not a lot. And then we came back again to do this thing we used to do every day at school at lunchtime, and was so wrapped in memories. And having to come in, with so many more people coming into the hobby. And I say, being an experienced dungeon master, I'm not the greatest, but I'm a good GM, is the closest I'll come to feeling like a single wealthy supermodel. That in gaming circles, like, there's always more players than there are GMs. So I've ended up running like 3-4 groups at a time now. I'm down to just 2. But coming into the experience going, this isn't what it was before. I can't go into this going, it's going to be like we were 15 at school again. But it's also, I had to just let it be its own thing. And a couple of those people who came to that first session, like, one didn't come to the second session. He had fun. He had drinks with us. We hugged at the end. He had a great time. And then it was like, wow, I'm really glad we did this. And he tapped out.
Right. But that's not his life now.
Yeah. But yeah. And it was like, we got together, we did the thing. It was great that Joe was there, and then he wasn't. And then I think 4 or 5 sessions in, if we think about the types of fun, which is one of the lenses I like to use, the guy who used to always make the dick jokes and the like the inappropriate innuendos and stuff, perhaps
me
because
and
of where
Chris.
yeah, but it was in a way that wasn't great.
No.
And he just sort of realized he didn't fit at the table, and where he was in his life about 6 or so sessions in, he went, I think I'm done too. And we brought some other people in who word got out in that DG's running games again and there's seats at the table. And something like that letting go of control that's been one of the themes of, I think, of the evolution of the hobby, and going, I can't determine what this table's going to feel like. I can create a good table, a safe place, a neutral space where everyone's going to get spotlight. I'm going to listen to you and play back the ideas and things that make you fun, and just letting the group morph out. One of the things I did that, because it was originally set up as a one-shot, the first group was way too overpowered. I stacked them with awesome abilities and powerful magic items. I had no expectation it would keep going.
Yep.
So I had to like jump straight into epic tier type stuff, which I wouldn't do again.
Right.
I'd go, if we want to keep playing, we're going to do something different, because I can't run this story for 2 years. I managed to, but it was really challenging. And I stuck an NPC in there from the outset that could be my mouthpiece, not a DMPC, but just a nice, simple meat shield barbarian who could ask dumb questions like, why are we here again? And that became a hot seat for people who wanted to come and try. They would come and be the barbarian for a session or two. And if they liked it, then they'd build out a character and join us. But it's been really good and really nourishing. It was really fantastic to get the opportunity to start it. You know, you go, if only I knew then what I knew now.
Oh yeah.
Going, all right, I know where this is going, but given that I started as a one shot, I knew it was going for 4 hours, 5 hours. The fact that I then had to spin that out for another 2 years kind of forced my hand into not forced my hand, but I could feel 15-year-old me wanting to go, no, this is my game and this is my story that you are a part of. Rather than my fun had changed into seeing them leaning forward and being excited and going, oh, and go, okay, whatever he's about to say or she's about to say is a thing that we should do or get involved in. But that overall, having the opportunity to start again with people where you've got hit the mic again. You've got the pre-existing relationship, but you can go, this can't and won't be the same thing that it was before. It'll be a different thing. And to just let go of that and go, I'm running this new thing and let's see how it is, and be comfortable as that changes. If it's not for everyone anymore, it's not for everyone anymore. And they can have had a great however many sessions they were with us for.
Yeah. There's a lot of different elements that intersect, at least in my experience, and it sounds like it mirrors yours at least somewhat, though I'm very early into that journey that you've been in 6 years now. But part of that is, like, when I started playing with these friends, Brandonville and Joe, we played D&D together because we were friends who then decided to play D&D. And so we was always just us because we were the friend group, and then we played D&D because we played D&D. And now, I think in general, but also just my life, I have different friend pockets of groups of people. And a lot of mine circle around D&D and RPGs because of the podcast and all that kind of good stuff. But just in general, understanding that with your friend who's like, I had a great time tonight, but I do not want to do this every week. So peace out. And being understanding like that's not a failure on your part as a dungeon master. You didn't do a good enough job, and that's why they didn't want to stick around. That is absolutely not what happened. They were adult enough and mature enough to realize that this was a really good time, but you're going to keep doing this every week or every 2 weeks, whatever the case may be. I'm not invested. So I can be your buddy that comes to the pub to watch the soccer matches or football or whatever. And I don't have to be part of this group, but still be part of the overall group. And that was never my experience as a kid. And I still hold a little bit of like I don't know if guilt's the right word, but I'm starting to evaluate it and deal with it as I have this resurgence of, is the reason we stopped playing all those years ago is because I wasn't good enough to keep you having fun. And there's a part of it that thinks that's true. that if I had just been a better DM for my college age friends when we got to that age, that we never would have stopped. And I don't think that's true intellectually, but there's still a part of me that has held on to that thinking, well, now here's my chance to do it right. And now if this game falls apart, it'll be my fault. And I don't think that's true, but I do have that nervousness. I have a lot more nervousness about running these games now than I have on whatever podcast I'm doing or streaming or whatever the case be. I don't have anywhere near the amount of nervousness I have just outside this door that you can't see with my two friends, because Bill still hasn't come back yet, afraid that if they have one bad game, they're going to be done. Like every game has to be the best possible game or it could fall apart. And I know that's not exactly what you were talking about, but it's what spurred in my mind. So Chris, I know we've touched on a little bit, but what is your experience with this? Like bringing back circle of friends, playing anything that you would want to bring to the table here?
Well, a couple things that popped in mind while you're talking. First, you said, like 40 minutes into it, you were kind of, oh my gosh, questioning yourself. I think that's normal. I do it almost every game I run, like especially at conventions. Like, 40 minutes, usually you've just gotten really into the game after figuring out who's going to play what characters and whatnot. So to me, I run to that all the time. I've learned little tricks of, just asking simple questions like, everybody good? We good to keep going? That way it kind of checks in with the players a little bit, just kind of see how it's going. I love the fact you said you knew what was going on for the next 4 hours. Someday I'll have that experience. I usually know what's going on for about the next 4 minutes. And then I'm like, aha, what's going to happen after that? I don't know. But that's just part of my style. I have such a loose idea of what a story is going to be, and I just kind of let it go. I have gotten old friends together to play games. The first time we got together, we're like, let's all capture our youth and play the same type of characters. And we realized quickly that, we're not that young group anymore. It's not fun in your middle age to go to the bar to try to pick up the barmaid or, have the petty little squabbles in the party, unless you've really talked about it ahead of time. But like, okay, you're, like Michael, you're playing the paladin. Well, I'm playing the, Kender thief. How are we going to actually handle this so it doesn't become a personal thing? It's just an in-game fun thing. I think having that's important. I think you hit it on the head though, of just saying, we've all evolved. I know when I was younger, it was very much, this is my story. You're almost to the point where you're lucky to be in my story in a way. Not quite that arrogant, but kind of that's how games were run. You get to follow my story, and if you hit the right keys, you win. I think now everybody's evolved to it's our story. It's okay if the GM makes a ruling that you're like, I see what you're thinking, but could we potentially do this rule instead? I think it's more acceptable to do that now. I'm also the GM that will give you options. You can roll this or that. You tell me what's better for you. And I kind of give players the option. That's partially because I put myself in their seat. I want to succeed. So how would I do it? Well, if you give me options, I'm going to definitely look at my character sheet and tell you what's best mechanically. I am also lucky enough that I play with some players who will go, I want to choose the harder path because I think it'll be funnier or more interesting if I don't succeed. Mm-hmm. We just played this week with Redemption. No spoilers. I gave the other Michael a role that when I gave him the difficulty, he laughed. He was like, yeah, that you expect me to succeed? And I was like, not really. And he almost did. The dice almost didn't work in my favor, but it still worked out in the scene. And he knew he was, I don't say set up to fail, but he knew the point of that moment, and the power of that moment, that scene was kind of meant for him to fail. And he embraced it. He had fun with it. And yes, we have recorded 2 more sessions, so hopefully we'll get back out there in a month or so. I think
we'll Australian boy happy.
Yeah.
So
we want to get a backlog. We want to get a backlog before we start throwing things out, just in case there's a hiccup with recording.
One of the things that you mentioned, I really wanted to touch on because I have had the same exact situation with the group that I'm in. Is that first time that we played at the cabin? I didn't think we were going to play. I didn't plan on playing, but then they brought it up and they were like, "Hey, we were on play." And fortunately, I've run a lot of one shots. So I've got a lot of experience to lean on. So yeah, again, I told the story before, but we ran to Walmart and we bought the starter set so I could use the pre-gens and stuff. But I gave them some extra hit points. I gave them some extra cool things to do because I wanted them to have a ton of fun. And then very similar to you, they're like, "Hey, we really like this. Let's keep playing." And now I'm dealing with, well, I gave them all these cool things to do because I thought we were doing a one shot. And now it's a continuing story. So they're kind of actually above power for where they should be. How do I manage that as a DM? And I think that's an interesting thought experiment of, I wanted them to have fun, so I made them powerful. But now I have to sustain this game. How do I pull back some of that power so that it doesn't become unmanageable for me as the DM? And I don't know that there's a lesson to be learned here as much as just the thought process of why is giving them, like, if I want every game to be fun, then shouldn't they always feel powerful? So then what is my job as the DM when I'm managing the game each session? Is it to make them feel like they succeeded at effort, or just give them cool stuff to do all the time and let them revel in, being successful in the most cool way possible? Like we know they're going to kill the orcs, but the question is, how cool are they able to be in that process? And I still struggle with that because I want to tell these pretty long form stories that have these twists and turns and these reveals. And it feels like, again, like a Stephen King story in a lot of ways. But I think the Marvelization of movies, I think we could cross over a little bit and go, at the end of the day, we know Marvel movies, like pretty much 90% of how it's going to end. There might be a little twist or turn. Maybe somebody dies we didn't expect because of contract disputes. But for the most part, we know the good guys are going to win, right? So why not just let them be superheroes? Why not just assume they're going to win, but just give them the tools to do that as super cool way possible? And I struggle with that. I'm the same way. I'm like, I want them to feel like this was hard earned. I want them to not have the exact right tool. I don't want them to always have the quip they say. I want the bad guy to get a quip so that later when they kill them, they'll feel more, passionate about it. But I don't know. I think there's something to be said about, if I thought it was going to be one shot, I'd run it this way versus a campaign. Should they be different? And I don't have an answer. Just a question. Any thoughts on that, David?
Chris, you go.
Well, one thing that popped in my mind, and I wish I could remember who told me this once. You said the statement of my job as the DM. This is what I think changed my mindset a lot. It's your role at the table, not your job. If you approach it like a job, then you put too much pressure on yourself. If you just go, hey, my role at the table is kind of facilitate the story and have fun. And I know that's kind of, we're playing with words, but that really helped me, because if I sit there and go, oh my God, it's my job, I have to do this, it put pressure on me. And I really wish I could remember who said it. And I remember it was at one of the first AcadeCons I went to, because I made the same statement, man, it's my job to give you a good game. And whoever it was like, no, it's your role to be part of the table. Your role just happens to be the GM kind of guiding the story. So I think that was really a big thing that changed my mindset. So anyways.
I've got two thoughts. One is mechanical and one is plot mechanical. So mechanically, over about the first 6 sessions, I worked out broadly how much more they were hitting than they should and how much harder to hit. And I can't remember which they were, but I knew I had to add 2 to everything's AC, 3 to everything's to hit. And like, I can't remember, but it was 2, 3, and 5. And it might've been +5 to their damage. I went, that's roughly how much I've overinflated them now. And I brought those numbers in over a period of sessions so that I knew that it would feel they'd start to fail more. It'd start to feel mechanically harder for them, but I didn't just drop it. I made it a little bit harder as we were going. I had to reach into the drawer, and for session 2, I went, okay, so it's a lich. Lich is a good bad guy. We can work towards a lich over a long period of time. And the other thing that I found has changed significantly as I've matured is I used to put a challenge in front of my players. Now I like to put a choice, and if I want them to hurt, I put a dilemma. Uh,
Nice.
so, and I think challenge, choice, dilemma. The challenge is you walk in, yeah, everyone in the bar stands up and goes, "You're Burlew, aren't you?" and draws their weapons. You know how that fight's going to go. The choices could be as simple as you go left or right, or you can go to this town or go to that town. And then the dilemma is both towns are on fire. They're both under attack. Which one are you going to go and save? Whichever one you don't save, it's going to go badly because that's got nothing to do with how many magic items they've got or how mechanically powerful they are. And by throwing more dilemmas in front of them, they felt challenged. I'm stuffing up my words. They felt challenged. But then when I put a challenge in front of them, they usually just monstered it.
That's interesting.
And I would just took cues from what fun. There were a bunch of them who I'd call like my dice rollers. They wanted the combats. They wanted to roll dice. So it was like, cool. The fact that you're overpowered means I can throw a beholder at you a couple of levels before I probably should. And they're like, beholder, we never fought one of them at school.
One of the issues I'm dealing with is that because I had 3 players originally that first night at the cabin, and then since then Bill has not come both times. He's had legitimate excuses, but that's also Bill. So we're going to continue playing assuming that it will just be the 2 of them. I'm very much anti-DMPC, so I'm not planning on doing that. So I've got 2 characters. So I've had to buff them a little bit. So they're 3rd level. They just hit they're 2nd level, but they have 3rd level hit points and they have maximum hit points. So they're 2nd level, but they have 30 something odd hit points. But there's still only 2 of them. So I can throw a couple of goblins at them, they're going to wipe them out. But if I throw like 3 or 4 orcs, then suddenly the action economy can be against them and it can go badly very quickly. So I'm trying to manage how difficult do I want this fight to be, because I want it to be fun. I want them to roll dice and feel cool, but I also want them to take a hit and give a hit and have a chance to say a thing or maybe look for an advantage. Like there's a little bit of the skill and strategy that they as players enjoy. I want to give them enough time. If they hit and kill everything in one hit, that's going to become very boring very fast. But I also have to make sure that I don't just slaughter them instantly by trying to put something too hard against two characters. And I know I can fudge things behind the table if I need to. If it's starting to go badly, I'll just miss when I shouldn't have, or I'll do less damage I'm supposed to, type of a thing. But I also don't want them to ever know that I'm doing that. So you can't make it too obvious, because then it's not fun either. But that's kind of the thing that I'm running into, is also managing their power level. The fact that there's only 2 of them, it just adds a little bit of extra complexity. The other thing that I'm experiencing, I mentioned this before as well, is they like playing with maps and minis. They're both very visual people. They're both artists. One's an art teacher at the college level. One's an art teacher at the grade school level, was high school, has done multiple schools. So they really enjoy minis. One of them went out and bought minis and painted them. So I'm back to running maps and minis, which I have not done in so many years. And I put a lot of time and effort. I drew out maps. I actually cut out maps. I bought like these big, easel stand graph paper things. So I actually
did exactly the same.
Yeah, I cut the maps out, and then as they go in a room, I just throw out here's the new map we're going through. And I realized at the end of that fight, I kind of was thinking back on it. I am so bad at running those types of battles because I've gotten so good, I think, at running Theater of the Mind, and I'm very good about throwing in details and stuff with terrain and how it feels and sounds and bringing in these other elements. And when the map was there, I was just relying on, well, here's the goblin, here's the door. And I left out all the details about what the goblins looked like. I just said, it's a goblin. I didn't do any of it's a short, squat, green creature with, and I just felt like I did such a terrible job because I was flexing a muscle I haven't used before. And rather than massaging it with the experience I have in Theater of the Mind, I flipped a switch and I was just totally on, well, you can see it right there. I don't have to do that part. So I'm going to try really hard focus next time on bringing in those elements that I particularly enjoy, Theater of the Mind style, but still giving them the visual representation of maps and minis because they like that as well. Again, no question there, just something to say.
Yeah, you're giving me a real flashback to the fact that, when we kicked off, they were very keen on maps and minis, and I had someone who'd been into Warhammer the whole intervening time, and just immediately on his own went and bought minis for everyone and painted them.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself doing exactly the same thing, to the point that I got like a note card and wrote the 5 senses on it and stuck it behind my screen, because I immediately just dropped all of that. We have a saying down here, you can't build the Sydney Harbour Bridge from one end only. I don't know if you have a similar, is going, all right, well, I want to keep as much of that theater of the mind cinematic stuff. What's the minimum map I can give you that doesn't cause me to go, cool, I've got enough on my mind as it is? Because I think our brain tries to optimize and goes,
Yeah,
cool, you don't have to worry about describing that because you just did those 4 lines. And I can focus more on your body language and stuff. But I flubbed that. I ended up getting really into printing, finding cool maps on Pinterest and printing them out. And for the big battles, I'd print huge things. But since COVID, we sort of shifted to online and using minimal stuff and some pre-bought modules. But I had to remind myself, wait, my fun came from doing that description and seeing them watch the movie in their head, not seeing them looking down at the grid to work out the optimal position. Even though I've got a couple of players who working out the optimal position to put their polearm sentinel paladin, that's his fun.
right. Yeah, that's the thing that I'm trying to figure through, is because they seem to really enjoy it. Like, they're not super into the if I move 4 squares or 5 squares, but just they like to be able to know the spatial distance. Again, they're just visual thinkers. They're really good at that, and they come up with really good strategies. They're much better strategizing than I am when it comes to the combat, when they can see it in that level. I'm just going to do the coolest thing I can. And they're like, well, but if I go here and here, I got sight lines, so they're really enjoying it. But I feel like I could make it more enjoyable if I continue to add in those other elements that I completely just spaced on this last time. And it will also be more fun for me, because like we played Hero Quest. We had the faculty retreat not too long ago. I broke out the Hero Quest, that revised edition I bought. I think that's what we played more than anything. Chris and his wife and Michael played, and Rocky. And that's what that game is. It's a dungeon crawler sort of thing. And, for what it was fun. I'm glad we got to play it, but I don't want this to turn into that. I don't want this just to be Hero Quest. I want it to be something different. And I was absolutely playing it like Hero Quest. I move 5, I attack, you attack, it's dead. And that's not what I want to do. And I think they will have more fun if I can massage both elements at the same time. Again, I don't think I've talked to you about it, Chris, before, but when you play Redemption, I'm assuming that's no maps and no minis, but do you play with them in other games?
I'd be lost using them. I'm not going to lie. We never used them all through my gaming until 4th edition. And then it was so much with the maps and minis. And that took a lot of my focus away from being creative and looking down at my character sheet and going, well, what can I do mechanically, which is not my style. I like people saying, oh, I'm going to go jump off the table and stab the guy. Well, you can't because this, that. And I'm like,
Yeah,
really? I'm the hero. You mean I can't slide across the table and stab him? Like, make the difficulty one more. I don't care. Like, it took away from me. Now, when I run like convention games, I'll say to people, I don't usually use the maps or minis, but I can put a really poor drawing out here if I'm not explaining it right. That'll kind of give you an idea of what the room looks like. And then if you want, I've got these little tokens we can use to kind of place things around. I find most people don't need it. I think part of it is I play games that don't really have like, oh, you move 5 feet and do this. It's, Star Wars, for example, is very broad. Hey, short range is several meters. Luckily, most people in America are like, what's a meter? Like, what's kind of like a yard, only a little longer. The range bands are so loose, it's easy to describe it, and you don't have to worry about actually counting squares. Same thing like Shadow of the Demon Lord, which I play a lot. You don't have to really count the squares. It's just descriptive. So I think that's part of it. Is I think the system kind of pushes people in that direction in a way. it's just not something that I've ever been drawn to. But again, that takes me away from the role playing, and it becomes mechanical for me.
Yeah.
And that's just not my style. And that's fine. I think I'm old enough to understand what is my style, and I'm definitely old enough to respect everybody else's style. Right. And if that's what they want to play, great. I enjoyed Hero Quest, but after, one or two little stories in their adventures, whatever, I'm ready to play something else.
Right. It's pretty samey after a little while.
Yeah.
But like these are the only guys that would have ever got me to go back to maps and minis. Like if it'd been anybody else, I'd be like, no, that's not how I like to run games. Even my kids, I'm pretty much like, no, we're going to do theater of the mind. But these particular people are the people that'd be like, oh, I think they're going to have more fun, so I'll do it type of a thing. Because again, I was playing with those kids when I was 8 years old, and you never can get that. Like I said, you can make new friends, but you can't make old friends. And these are my old friends.
Yep.
All right. So we actually, go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things that I've become aware of recently is, so one of the people at one of my tables doesn't have aphantasia, like they can't imagine, but I'd say they've got it like mildly, that if I don't put something to scaffold their imagination, they can't see the film. So if I did it purely theater, it's almost an accessibility thing for that individual, that if I don't give them that scaffold, they can see everyone else around them is, on the mountaintop as the storm is raging and the wind's blowing across, and I can see them like they can't find it. But to your point, Chris, if I go, look, here's a circle, you're roughly here, the wind's blowing this way, rain's coming down, I suddenly see it unfold in their head, and I go, good,
see, and that's where my brain shifts to, now I want to have fun watching their face light up. So now I want to do the drawings and the maps and the minis, and take myself out of, my fun just becomes watching them have fun with it then.
100%.
So, yeah, that's I think a big part of gaming, in my opinion, should be about watching everybody else at the table have fun too. I've been playing for a few years, and I've been to many tables where that's not the case. And I wish people would realize, we're all there to have fun. It's okay to watch somebody else have fun.
Yeah. I mean, it should be fun for you to experience other people's fun. Like it is for me as the GM. I enjoy playing a game that other people are enjoying. Like I feed off of that energy. When I can see they're having fun, I get an endorphin hit. So I'm trying to chase that Dungeons and Dragon type of thing, where I give you fun, you have fun, then I get the energy back, and it reciprocates and that kind of thing.
It's a circle.
It is a circle of life, but we're also running along because we're three guys who like to talk about stuff. So we're going to move on. So my apologies, but yep, that's what's happening. So we're going to move into our second improv game. This is Where Have My Fingers Been? This is everyone's favorite part of the show. Doesn't look like New York Taker's with us tonight. He's probably dealing with hurricane stuff somewhere.
Probably.
So we're going to take turns prompting each other once again to create a short scene that involves two or more characters who are going to act out little puppeteer style. Usually they have a beginning, middle, and end. I often leave at least one of those out because I think it's fun. David, you are the guest again tonight. So would you like to go first in terms of giving a prompt or receiving a prompt?
I will again receive a prompt because I can't think of one to give.
Totally fair. So, all right. So, even though New York Tater's not here, we still have to sing the song for him. So if you will sing the song, do you remember it?
I do. Where have my fingers been? I said, where have my fingers been?
Your fingers are two heroes in a dungeon. You're about to break into a room that you know is full of goblins and orcs, and you're trying to convince the other one to go first.
Hey, I reckon you should go first. Hey, I reckon you should go first. Well, why don't we ask that guy? What? That guy? Who's that? I think that's New York Tater. I think they just watch, so that you can't ask them. Well, could we use New York Tater as a battering ram? Yeah, I reckon we could. Yeah, let's grab them. And that's where my fingers have been.
Yay! New York Tater gets to be involved anyway. I'm sure he'll love that.
And his head bashed in.
All right. Yes. So I'm sure he feels like that a lot. All right. So again, to keep the circle going, you will now prompt Chris for his scene. Chris, you will sing the song.
All right. Where have my fingers been? I said, where have my fingers been?
You are in a plaza in Spain with your wife, and 7 minutes into a conversation, you've just realized that it's actually been in English for the last few minutes and it's pivoted to you.
What? I mean, I get to make a decision on this trip? I mean, it's your trip. Yeah, I'd like your input. It's a trap. Oh, sorry, honey. My lawyer has advised me to plead the fifth. I really hate you sometimes. And that's where my fingers have been.
Yay!
Yay.
Both of you brought in the third. I feel pressure now. Like I need to do that. I probably won't. All right. So here we go. Where have my fingers been? I said, where have my fingers been?
I like that. A paladin has just caught his thief stealing.
What, where? Oh, this? Oh, no. I know what you're, no. I was just making sure that it was all there because I, as you know, don't trust anybody. Oh, I definitely know you don't trust anybody, and I don't trust you. See, I used to be, that was my nickname in college was anybody. So, it's kind of like a circular logic. Would you two shut up? I'm trying to sleep. And that's where my fingers have been.
Yay.
Full circle. All right. So now we're going to move into cryptozoology. This is where we take a look at a monster, usually from D&D, but not always, and not always a monster, as we're going to see tonight, or can be. It's complicated. We're going to talk about ways that maybe we have used this monster in the past, maybe brainstorm some ways that we're going to use this monster in the future. We do have a couple people watching. I know some key, maybe he's off making a Blizzard dessert and just has a screen on, but we got at least quarter of my screen. I can see two people watching. At the end of cryptozoology, we do an audience Q&A section. So if you have any questions for us, be thinking of them now. All right, David, so you are the guest again tonight. So what monster-ish thing do you want to talk about?
Well, I wanted to talk about one of the NPC stat blocks, the Gladiator, because I use it in two ways. It's a really different kind of piece of beefcake to throw into a room.
Okay.
They're not like a bandit. They have some story wrapped up in them. Like if you're a gladiator, that you do, it's like the difference between like when you call someone a hitman or a fence or a smuggler. Like it, fighters can be, martial characters can often not have as much inbuilt story as like your warlock, where you've immediately got that big patron story hook. A gladiator, your professional fighter, who either fights for entertainment or fights for survival, they're just a more interesting kind of martial person to put in there. The fact that it's just any humanoid, they can be anyone. They can be standing next to the core person in the scene that they're against. Like put them next to the mage. I think they're really versatile mechanically, and you know if we're talking theater of the mind, like you can really go to town with what your gladiator looks like, because they can have kind of video game armor, whereas your town guard is going to be wearing functional armor, whereas the great Gorthak, renowned gladiator of the 9 planes, it's okay for them to have an impractical pauldron with ridiculous spikes on it if that's not the kind of game you're playing. The gladiator is allowed to wear the theatrical stuff. Like they can really eat some scenery, and then they can hit pretty hard. They've got a low enough AC that they get hit hard enough, often enough. They got enough hit points, they'll survive a bit, and they've got multi-attack, and they've got shield bash, and they can be really vicious. I've used them a lot to, and also a gladiator being professional gives you permission for them to fight smart. Yeah, I've got them to shield bash the fighters out of the way and run for the squishies. Put like a couple of them on the field and go, they knock the paladin aside, and they're coming. One of them shouts, "Kill the casters," and they're all going to take an opportunity attack, and they're coming for you. And you go, wait, what? And you can see that they're professional puncher honorers, if that makes some sense. But then, just as a stat block, I found them a really, really good chassis to build all sorts of other things on.
Right. Before we get to that, just want to quickly. So this can be found on page 346 of the 5th edition Monster Manual. The Gladiator is a level 5 challenge. I guess I don't really know that I think challenge level makes a whole lot of sense or works, but we're going with it. They are brave, so they get advantage on saving throws against being frightened. They are brute, which means they do an extra die of damage, which is included in the stat books lower. As David mentioned, they have multi-attack, so they can make 3 melee attacks or 2 ranged attacks. Their primary weapon in the stat block is a spear, and they have 3 ways they can use it. They can throw it, they can hit you, or they can two-handed hit you. And again, they can do that up to 3 times if they do melee. They have the shield bash, as you mentioned, and they have a reaction of parry. So against 1 melee hit that would have hit it, they can add 3 to their AC if they can see the person is about to hit them. So they can make their armor class 19 against 1 attack each round, which works really well for that shield bash. If you're saying they're just going to run through, it's going to be harder for at least one of those people to hit. But the reasons you want to bring this up, again, it's a very robust stat block, but you use it basically as just a starting point for a lot of things that you like to do.
Yeah. I'll just quickly point out that the shield bash in this is noted as a melee weapon attack. So it's in that kind of 3 things. So you can have it run up and shield bash 3 different people and knock them all prone. And suddenly the battlefield is vastly different than it was 6 in-game seconds ago. And I've used this to be a pirate captain. I've used it to be in the one-shot game that turned into a 2.5-year game. The bad lich was basically making xenomorphs, so they kept, like aliens from the movie Alien, they kept coming across all sorts of weird xenomorphs. Almost all of them were the gladiator when you pulled the skin off. That the thrown spear became the acid splash, and the shield bash was the lashing tail, and the claws just very thematically smash someone to the ground and then attacking with advantage, and describing the shrieking of the alien as it was doing that. My players were genuinely frightened, and if you told them that's the same stat block as the guard who was looking after the vizier in the last town, they wouldn't have believed it.
Right.
So you can turn that ranged attack into anything, any type, and that smashing people prone and then parry means that they can break through a line really quickly and come out the other side. So they've been mage hunters, like in long flowing cloaks, not looking like a gladiator at all, but wearing the insignia of the mage hunters. And it was the gladiator under the skin. And I just find it it's like a hot rod, right? It's got a really good engine underneath. It's got some range damage. It's got some melee damage. It can do some control by knocking people prone. It's not going to die in one go, even if the mage hits it with disintegrate. It's over 100 hit points, so they don't get slaughtered immediately. So they got a bit of survivability. And I'm interested if you've got go-to stat blocks. Like if I needed a bad guy for them to fight instantly, this is my go-to. You can dress it up however you want and turn anything into anything.
So Chris, what about you? Have you ever used a gladiator as is, or do you even in any of your games, including Star Wars, do you have a stat block that's your go-to? If I don't have anything else, I'll use this sort of thing.
Yes and no. Most people that know me know that I kind of just make up stats as I go. Usually all I need to know is basically what an AC is, what their hit points are, and then I'll just make it up as I go. So I kind of have a go-to, but it's real loose. I've never used the exact gladiator skin, but I've used similar stuff. When I used to run a lot of D&D, I just had my typical brute that, like I said, had an AC, had some hit points, and had his to hit. which is really all I needed to know. And I could just work off of that. And just like you said, skin it however I want. Which your description of the gladiator with the flowing pauldron with spikes, there's a cosplay thing at AcadeCon. That might be my outfit.
Nice.
That in a chainmail bikini, because then I can call it whatever I want.
That's right.
Disturbing is what most other people will call it.
Yes. Everybody who's in the costume contest is going to get a little sign that they can show, like, you know, their number. I'm going to make yours like life-sized.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to wear that. So yeah, I have kind of used it, just not that exact one. What about you? Have you used one before?
So we were talking a little bit before we went live. In my 3.5 days, some Geek says came back at a weird point. Yeah, you did. I did this a lot. I think it was like the Thieves Guild thief that was in the back. I think it might have been a cultist. It was one of the two. But yeah, I used it for everything. It was basically, I knew the hit points, I knew the AC, I knew the armor class and the damage sort of thing. But just in general, I want to talk about that. I love reskinning. It's something we've talked about many times on the show. I'm a huge fan of it. And I love the specificity that David gave, that it became a xenomorph. You know, that's not just, it's a bugbear or it's a goblin or it's an orc. No, this is a unique creature. I mean, to this world probably, but you were able to take the things that are in a stat block and just give them a little bit of flavor. Ranged attack is acid, whip, tail whip is the shield bash. That is like expert level GMing, in my opinion, in that regard, because I could totally see how that battle would play out in the game, but you have done nothing other than how you describe what you're doing. And I think, like, I'm actually one of these people that I don't think we need 37 monster manuals. Like, every time there's like a new Tome of Beasts or Tome of Foes or Tome of this, Tome of that, like, I get people, they make millions of dollars, whatever. I don't know that you need those, because if you just reskin stuff, I think there's enough in this one to do 90% of that. Again, I'm getting on a soapbox there, but I love the fact that you're doing it and you're doing it so well. I wish I had a good example to share immediately that would equal that, and I don't have one. Like, you are absolutely knocking it out of the park with that. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
I agree. I agree. And I agree.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm with you. I've got enough monsters, and having more monsters can't compensate for not knowing your players and where their fun comes from, which loops back to what we were talking about before. Yeah. I do have one or two players that were like, they said, I just hope we get to fight the iconic monsters. So sure, you're going to have to fight a beholder and a mind flayer and a big dread dragon at some point. But for everything else, it's more powered by the story. And, I would really encourage people to make more use of those NPC stat blocks and just wrap them up in other story. And also feel free to smudge them together. Like, you give that gladiator one spell that they cast once, and a gem on their armor flares red, and then they hold their hand out and cast fireball, and you can see that there's two more on them. Suddenly the threat level's a heap higher, and I don't need to remember anything except just I know what fireball does. So they can become a powerful multi-class in seconds. And for your, like, even as the gladiator, I think your fighters often feel like they just chew through mooks. And something I like about the way Star Wars runs with I'm going to get the name wrong because I want to say elites, because I'm thinking of 4E, but
Minions,
Nemesis.
rival. Nemesis is the big baddies.
Yeah, your martial classes and my players who their fun is mowing through the mooks to get to the bad guy, putting a gladiator that clearly is calling them out, pointing their sword overly dramatically, they immediately want to take the person down a peg. And it's a robust enough stat block that it can give them something flavorful to do.
Yeah, I do. I kind of touched on that before, but when you want your players to do cool things and feel powerful, sometimes you need a bad guy that can take a couple hits to give them that chance. it almost seems counterintuitive in a way, like, well, if they're just mowing through the bad guys, that makes them feel powerful. But it's different when you're like, you have a bad guy that's tough enough for them to set something up, and the rogue gets in position for their sneak attack. The wizard casts a spell from afar that weakens their armor class or immobilizes them or stuns them, and then the fighter gets their hit. So you need a bad guy that's worth 3 hits to get that moment. So you need to give them some bad guys that have enough hit points that they can do that, and they still feel like they got a little bit of oomph on the other side of it. So, again, I think it sometimes seems counterintuitive, but giving them some bad guys that can take a few hits is actually part of making them feel cool. At least I think it can be, and doing the cool stuff they can do. And I did want to mention one of the things I've been doing in that game with Brandon, Bill, and Joe, minus Bill, is I've been using the mob rules, which I think I know they're from Star Wars. I think it might be in D&D too somewhere. I don't remember. But basically, I throw mobs at them, and each member of the mob has 5 hit points. So if they roll well, because they're doing anywhere between like 3 and 10, 11, 12 points of damage at a time, based on their rolls, they can take out multiple enemies in one roll. And so even though they don't have things like Great Cleave yet or multi-attack, we can simulate that, because if they rolled 11 points of damage, they took out 2 mooks. And so I can say, well, okay, you took out 2 of them. How did you do that? And then they get to come up with some cool way that, this one shot that one as it fell, or my arrow went through one and into the other. And I love those, because that is the thing they didn't get from me before. I know I'm circling this all the way back to my game, but that's something I do now that they never experienced. I never did you tell me what's interesting about the town you just walked in, or you tell me what's the first thing you notice about this NPC. What sticks out to you about them? And so this is all brand new to them. And also what does it look like? You killed 2 of these goblins. How did you do that? And they're just like, they're excited about it, but they're not good at it yet. And they're like, I don't know. What should I say? And they're asking each other, but it's still a fun energy at the table. And that's definitely one thing that I've brought in that I didn't have before. But I love mook rules. Again, slightly different topic here. Letting people take out more than one at one time, always fun.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I will say, I think I used to kind of reskin things a little different. Like I used to run a lot of 3.5. I loved adding class levels to monsters.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
So a player would walk up and go, oh, that's a kobold. They have like 4 hit points. They do blah, blah, blah. Fireball just came out of the kobold. Wait, what? Time out. How did that work? Shrug my shoulders and be like, initiative's rolled. It's your turn. What are you going to do?
Yep.
Be confused at how a kobold just cast fireball. Well, because he's got 5 levels of wizard, 6, whatever it took. Like that's how it just really only increases hit points by what, maybe 20. But now you've changed their opinion of what this kobold is. A lot of my players were smart enough to realize, wait a minute, I'm 5th level and just walked up on 2 kobolds. Something's not right. I disbelieve the illusion.
Too quiet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they would be. I disbelieve. I'm like, no, there's 2 kobolds there.
Yeah.
And they're not trying to eat me. No, but they do have a big cook pot. And they're looking at you funny. That would be more kind of how those scenes went. And I enjoyed it, and they enjoyed it, because they were like, all right, we're kind of tired of, like, a lot of my players knew the books kind of forward and backwards. They're like, we're kind of tired of knowing what to expect in a way. But you said your players want to fight those iconic monsters. Hopefully they're not reading all the books and going, oh, I've done 40 hit points. It should be dead.
I have one who knows all the books and knows all the stats, and he always keeps track of how much damage they've done and goes, it must be looking pretty damaged by now, isn't it? And
that's just fun.
Yeah.
That's where
his fun.
That's where I would just look and be like, where are we at? Oh, he's almost dead. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Just
I'd
remember,
let him keep track of it.
Those hit points in the book are the average of the range. So even without technically cheating, you can make it the minimum all the way to the maximum. So sometimes it's a good idea to have that in your head. So if the thing that has, like, the NPC stat block's different, like a beholder, I don't know, it probably has like 212 hit points. That's the average. So it probably could go from like 180 to 260. So anywhere in there, you're good. At least that's my opinion on how things work.
Very quickly, I mean, that's where the NPC stat blocks help for when they finally got to the big black dragon. And I knew that my player would know everything about that. You grab 6 gladiators and put them all in exotic armor and say, the intelligent dragon has hired a hit squad to take you out, and it's in front of them. It's behind them, sorry. I can play with their stats, and my metagamer hasn't been duped from the pleasure of he knows how that black dragon works. I'm going to let it run exactly as written, but I almost said a bad word. I'm going to fool around with every other stat block on the board.
They're going to and find out.
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Well, I absolutely love to have you on the show. I'm sorry my coughing wasn't too bad, but it interrupted a few times. But it was a pleasure to have you on. You would be welcome back anytime. We can make the 14-hour time zone thing work out. We are going to go to audience Q&A. We got a couple people watching. If anybody would like to ask any questions of myself, of Chris, or David, or all three, makes sense they're RPG related, but hey, you do you. Now's your time to do so. There's a little bit of a delay, so while we're waiting for that to catch up, Chris, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Twitter. That's the easiest. Burlew_Chris. I check it once a day. Don't put much out there. That's just my thing. When social media first started, pretty much everything people posted was nothing but negative comments after. So I usually do things through private messages with people I know that are going to be positive. So if you post something, I'll read it. Generally,
send some positive love. Like say, hey, I love Redemption. Can't wait for it to come back.
I think it's a month. I don't remember exactly when the schedule is. That's Kaylee's job. I just show up and talk into the microphone. Excellent. That's kind of my job.
All right. And then David, where can people find you on the interwebs if they want to come hang out with you?
Well, I am Tigranosaurus. That's been my nickname for a while. But on Twitter, I am Tigranosaurus1 because, believe it or not, it was already gone. And I've reached out to the person who is Tigranosaurus on Twitter and said, hi, you don't appear to have used this for many years. Could you give it to me? But yeah, Tigranosaurus1, if you want to talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, gaming, and kindness. I try to be unironically positive when I'm on Twitter, which is a difficult thing to do because it's a hellscape.
Yes.
I occasionally take hiatus from there, but love having conversations with people, and any friend of the Academy is a friend of mine.
Nice.
Fantastic. As for myself, of course, you can find me at the RPG Academy. That's where I do most of my stuff. Farm to Fable, also my Smallville Rewatch podcast. Tomorrow I'm recording season 5, episode 1. So we're getting ready to launch our season 5 coverage. I'm very excited about that. Though, of course, I'm timing terribly because I'm right in the middle of AcadeCon prep and vacation prep, and my job, which is easy, like the easiest job I've ever had, is now getting to the part where it's not easy anymore. So yeah, the hair that I have is going away and it's graying at an exponential rate. But also my Discord. Again, Chris is part of that. I absolutely love Discord. It's my favorite corner of the internet. It's just there's probably maybe 10 people who are really active on there. We may have around 30 who are in and out, but it's just this kind of conversation all the time. We share things we're excited about. We have one channel where people can complain if something bad's going on and everyone else jumps in and tries to give them some support. So it's just a lovely community full of lovely people. Open to anybody, but you do have to ask. You can't just jump in. You have to get asked for the link. I'll send it to you. You're welcome to join. If you want to do that, just let me know again. I'll send you the link. And then of course, AcadeCon. We are we're a month away. So tomorrow will be exactly 4 weeks from when we'll be heading up there or down there, depending on where you're coming from, and getting ready. So it's here. It's exciting. It's nerve-wracking. I'm anxious, but Kickstarter went even better than expected. We've got a whole bunch of people coming. There's like 140 events being ran. We got more events than we have people, so we need more people to show up. Rudo Bush just jumped in, says they're going to be there in November. So awesome. Can't wait to see you. So no questions have come in, but we always have one question we ask all of our first-time guests. So David, if you were going to be turned into an action figure, and I don't mean like metaphysically you physically become but just like they're going to make one of you, what are the 3 accessories that would come in your package?
Okay. It'd be wearing a badge that says free hugs.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
It would have a comically oversized dice bag.
Nice.
That included my Star Wars dice, like all the dice.
Okay.
Probably a mail one, a chainmail one. So if you were playing fighty with your action figures, it could be a bludgeoning weapon.
Oh, nice. Yeah, multi-purpose, very important.
Yep, and a backpack with a laptop in it.
Oh, fantastic. Are you a brand loyal? You're a Mac guy, Windows, Dell?
bit like Windows, but like I kind of view it as compute, and I used to get them through work, and so it's like whatever compute you gave me is what you give me. But I'm a Windows guy, probably a Surface in there.
Oh, nice, very cool. Well, Brody Bush, thank you for jumping in here at the last minute. I hope you enjoyed this last part of the conversation. You may have been here the whole time and just now mentioned it. That's totally fine. We do this every other week on Wednesday. We usually kick off about 9 p.m. Eastern time PM, runs for an hour to an hour and a half. We try to have guests on. I have a guest lined up for next time. I believe Matthew is going to be here. And it's going to be a little bit different for Used Books. They're actually going to talk about a charity organization that they're a part of through the Indie Press Revolution. They have a diversity sponsorship. They give, they basically raise money and give money to diverse creators in the TTRPG space. And they're currently doing like a fund drive. So we're going to have them on and they're going to talk about that charity and how you can help support them. So be here 2 weeks from now to talk about that. And I'll see you on the interwebs at the RPG Academy, hopefully on Discord. So everybody do the awkward wave out. Thanks for being here. See you next time.
Don't forget.
Oh yeah. See, it's not above me. It's above you, but it's out of sight.
Yeah, it's up there somewhere.
Yeah. If you're having fun,
You're doing it right.
There we go. Thank you. And bye-bye.